But you can't allow those things, just like you listening can't allow the pressures and stresses of your job, or maybe you got fired. Maybe you've been made redundant and you don't have a job right now and you're between gainful employment. And that's stressful. In that event, you shouldn't be trying to trade. Just practice, because you're not going to do the right things in that state of mind, because you're going to try to do anything you can to make yourself feel better about the situation you're in, and just feel like, oh, why am I worried about all this? I can make $1,000 in one day trading, over leveraging without a stop loss, and just get lucky gambling. You won't say it that way, but that will be the reality of it if you're right, if you're correct about trading in those conditions. So when I sat down with him today and told him, I said, listen, we're going to think about how a $50,000 account. I know you said you were going for that $150,000 account. Okay. And you were trying to prove to dad you were going to go on the internet and piss all over my trolls and like you have to defend me, which you don't. I want you to think about a $50,000 account. And I want you to think about 1.5% risk of that. That's the highest you can ever go. You can never go above 1.5%. Now, if you go out and look at these funded accounts, they allow you more than that. Not by much. I think it's like 2%. But I told him, you are not allowed to go over 1.5%. Because if you go over 1.5%, you failed. In my eyes, I'm your dad. I'm telling you, you fucking failed. Not just, I messed up. You fucking failed. You took that on. You did it yourself. You chose to fail. It didn't happen to you. You chose it. The reason why he was blowing it, trying to do the 150,000, because he was trying to trade with the maximum amount of contracts. Just because they're offering it to you doesn't mean you should do it. So I sat with him today and I said, look, I want you to think about what 1% looks like on a $50,000 account. That's still more than you make all week long. What happens if you sit down and you make that in one day? How would that make you feel? Just one day? Yeah, one day. That's what I said. One day. What does that make you feel like? He said, oh, I would want more than that. I said, why? You're not making that right now. You work all week long around these insufferable people that come to the location where he works at. And where I live at, there's this snootiness, okay? That everybody thinks they're better than everybody up here. Okay, and believe me, it's ridiculous. Like it's nonsensical the way they all act up here. And if you go into a place of service and a person's waiting on you, if you're going in there too and you're patronizing a place like, where my son works at, he works at a coffee shop. It's a Starbucks, and it's just unbelievable hearing some of the stories. He comes home over the year and a half he's been, it's just crazy to hear these entitlement-minded people. And they come in, they talk to you like, you're less than human. That $500, if you could make that one day per week, you've replaced the whole need to go to that place. And you're not even pushing it hard. You're not even pushing it hard. You're not pushing hard to break the account. You're not pushing hard to feel like you got to keep up with some level of measurement. Somebody on the internet's doing this much, I got to do that. You don't have to look at my videos where I'm trading all those contracts and building up a large position. You ain't got to do $12,000. You ain't got to do $16,000 and $20,000, $30,000 days. You don't need to do those. You can get to those, but you have to grow into making $200 and saying, okay, $200. That's your whole week in half right there with one transaction. That's how I got hooked on this. In the 90s, I got hooked on that because my pay was less than $300 a week. Bring home. And I was thinking to myself, man, I could just do one bond trade per week and just get half of a point, if I could just get lucky enough to find 16 ticks on one contract in the bond market, that's $500. That's better than going to work. And once I do it, I don't have to do it again because I'm scared to trade, right? Well, that was my whole approach going in, easing into it. And I sat down with him, I explained this whole thing to him today. I said, I was afraid to get into it when I was in the 90s. I mean, it was exciting, but still scary. Like, I don't ride roller coasters. I think they're thrilling to watch other people go nuts and throw their guts up and scream and, probably blow out an intestine and guttural, screams as they go down the deepest part of the decline. But I would never get on those things. I don't like them. I have to be in control. I have to be in control of me, the environment that I'm in, and that is not something I would do. And I don't want to treat my trading like that. So I have to be very methodical about what it is I'm looking for. And the way I teach you as my students, I teach that same approach. We're not gambling. We're not inviting happenstance. Okay, so I told him, I said, you're going to trade until you get fatigued. And then as soon as you are like, you just don't know why you're doing it, you just push the button to find out, okay, what happens. That moment, that's what I was waiting for. And I explained to him, I said, that's where everybody blows it. Everybody blows it. At that moment, it's because you have either hurt your account, someone has hurt your feelings or made you angry, or you're sick, or something cost you money that was unexpected. You are using that moment to replace some kind of negative thing that you're going through. Or maybe not even experiencing it yet, but you're afraid of it. You're afraid if something happens, it's looming in the offing. What happens if my girlfriend? What happens if my wife? What happens if my husband leaves me? Well, I won't feel so bad if I can make $1,000 today. When really you'll still hurt because you have emotional commitment to that. Whatever that thing might be. It might not even be a relationship. It might be some kind of a I don't even know. It could be a number of things, but a what if thinking scenario of something negative, something harmful that may happen to you could be a very triggering thing for you to get into a trade that has no real sound reason to be in it. And you're looking at it with the expectation, if it pays out, this is a better use of my time than sitting around worrying about something that may or may not even happen. And I have done that, and I have blown accounts in a 20-year-old mindset. I was fearful of a lot of things that never fucking happened. I had so many unrealistic fears. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? And none of it ever happened. It never happened. But they were so overwhelming to me at the time that it forced me to take on trades and take on risk, hoping that if I got paid out correctly on the other side of that trade, at least it was better than me sitting there twiddling my thumbs in fear of what may not or may come. The uncertainty of what if thinking is paralyzing. But when it's not paralyzing, it's the instigation to take you into a gambling environment. Think about it. I promise you, if you do some serious soul searching, you could go back to those times where you blew your accounts, where you've done serious damage and drawdown in your accounts. You've probably many times been in that same circumstance and not even realized it. And the only way I identified it is because I was journaling it. And these same circumstances kept coming up when I blew the account. These things were there. So at the time, they don't feel like they're all that impactful. They're not the real problem. When they are, you're just trying to push them to the side. You're letting them be the guy, when you're out there with your friends and stuff, like, hey, yeah, and someone looks at you funny. And your drunk friend says, hey, yo, this guy's giving you the eye, man. You gonna let him do that? It's nothing. It's no big deal. And you look over at him, he's just, whatever. And then your buddy says, hey, keep that shit up. My boy's gonna beat your ass. Well, what did just happen? You weren't trying to do nothing. You're just out there having a good time, but your drunk buddy, Carl, fucking opened his mouth up. Now you're in a fight. You got to defend yourself when there was really nothing there. There was no real static there. That's what these types of thoughts will do for you. They'll put you in circumstances that you really aren't comfortable in. But because idle hands, you push the button. Because sitting still and not doing something when you're not disciplined, when you don't have self-control, which is something that you have to wrestle and form and forge over time. Nobody walks out in this industry and has self-confidence, self-control, and responsibility in the beginning. Those characteristics and those traits are developed over time. Losing money, making money, losing money, making money, learning what you're doing wrong, trimming all that stuff that is problematic. This is not a hard business to be profitable in, but it's a hard business to be organized and disciplined in. Because there's so many things that could take you right out of consistently profitable and wreck you right away. Because it's you as a person, you're a human being. You have emotions, you have psychological weights placed on you because of relationships inside this industry and outside this industry. And the more people you allow in your circle of influence, be it social media, your family members, your coworkers, the more you allow that in, the more likely you're going to be placed in pressured circumstances to perform when there's no need to. There's no need to. But when you step out there in social media and you have other people telling you what you should and shouldn't do, and you give these people that have no real control over your life, if you do it wrong, they're not going to pay you to make your ends meet because they wanted you to do something like it's a UFC fight or it's a sporting event. Perform for me. Fuck you. Go watch somebody else do that shit. You don't need to do those things for those people. You're running a business. Does the CEO of Netflix go out and go on social media, hey, what should I do today? They're not doing that. Believe me, trust me, look at what they've done. They don't do that, okay? They make their own policies, and right or wrong, they're going with it. But they're not letting even their customer base tell them how they should do things when they should. You as a trader, you're you incorporated, you have to be in control of everything at all times. And you can't let these opportunities that will cause you to do reckless things, to invite you to do the most ill-advised things while risking money. That's like, you would never jump out of a perfectly working airplane, but hey, the girl that you love says she wants to do it and she wants to have a moment in life with you. Now you're contemplating it. You're scared shitless, but you're still contemplating it now. Man, if I don't do it, what is she going to think of me? When it should have been, honey, that is extremely brave of you. And I hope you respect the fact that I don't have wings and I don't want to be up there challenging the outcome of me opening that parachute and then opening and carrying me down safely to the ground. I will watch in the safety of how you do that. And I will applaud you when you land safely. Okay. But I'm not doing that. And you shouldn't fear their response. They shouldn't push you into that. But what's really going to happen? You're going to be worrying about whether or not you do this or don't do this and how they're going to think, especially if you're dating them brand new in the relationship. You'll do anything. You'll fight a guy you know damn well you probably get your ass beat by him, but you can't look like a weakling in front of her. Get some beer muscles, some liquid muscles. Go get to the bar and get, I'm gonna have to deal with this guy later on tonight before the bar closes. So let me get some liquid courage in me. And that way, if I do get my ass beat, at least I'm numbed up. You can't have that mindset in trading. You can't do that. Now, my son didn't go to those extremes, but I'm just talking because, I want to have something more interactive than just simply saying my son, who has a video game fetish, that he thought that he was going to be able to segue right on into this and treat it the same way. When you're not making a living, you're not building wealth playing a video game. And you're not losing your home, your livelihood, your life savings when you lose a game, when you lose a video game tournament. Okay, big deal. It's ego and it's pride. That's it. But in this, you could lose more than you have put in. Things can go wrong real quick, especially in today's climate. All the things that's going around the world, man, it could cause real quick, sudden market movements, and your stop loss didn't do a good enough job. And now, where are you going to get that money from? If you're trading with real money, live funds, it can take more than you have. If you present the opportunities for it to do so, hey, perfect storms happen all the time. So I tell my son, I said, listen, think about 1.5%. Because if you can grow in understanding that 1.5% is what you can lose, that's the most you can lose, what should you do going forward? Find a way to chew into that 1.5%. Now, does that mean you go out tomorrow and try to make 1.5%? Or that you have to do it today? No. But think about how that fits in your life cycle as an employee of a working company right now. You're gainfully employed. You're only making $400 a week as a teenager. You want to grow. You want to be able to move away from the necessity of having that and make your own money. Half of that with one trade, and it didn't even go to where you thought it was going to go. Just a small little move. Do you see how that's rewarding? And he's like, I never really thought about it like that because I just thought it was not enough. I was expecting you to say, okay, I want you to make this much. I said, no, did I tell you that today? No. But in your mind, you were thinking, Dad's going to need me to see this much in a return and this, that, and all those things were in your mind while you were doing each one of those executions, they weren't they? He said, yep. And that's exactly what everybody does. That's what makes it hard. That's what happens with these guys on YouTube. Some of them are honest and say, this is not easy. I got to get out here and I got to worry about this and worry about that. Right. You're making it harder. I love watching them. It's like, a gladiator. You're getting out there and you're doing something ass backwards. There's no war, but you're going to go out there and take on a fight. You want to be able to show the world that you can be a gladiator with everybody else having the benefit of being a heckler, talk shit to you, and that's in your head. And anybody that says it's not in their head is full of shit. So that to me, you're inviting more difficulty. I promise you, every one of these YouTubers out there that are live streaming that can be profitable, they would be so much better if they weren't live streaming. And I'm not saying, they shouldn't do what they're doing. I'm saying that there's a way that we as individuals, as humans, we compound the difficulty. I know I did. When I was a younger man, I tried to do a whole lot more than was necessary. But my son was successful today in identifying that $244, when he makes $400 after taxes for a whole week of income, working in a place that he doesn't want to be at, around people that are conceited, self-centered, entitlement-minded. They look at him. They don't know that he's my son. They don't know how we live and what we have in our bank accounts and how we can live and do whatever the fuck we want to do. They don't know that about him. They see him as just some teenager, the equivalent of somebody that would be in a McDonald's, and give me my shit. So he's felt that now. He's felt it. He knows what it feels like, and he doesn't like it. And that's exactly what I wanted him to feel. Because now he doesn't have a college mindset, not that he ever had. He doesn't have a working man's career mindset. There's nothing wrong with that. But I didn't want my children having that. Because when you have that, you are owned. You are absolutely owned. You are not independent. You have to be given permission, and you're scheduled. Show up here, perform this job, better do it to my expectations, or I'm getting rid of you.